Hi, everyone. This is Paul Hogue with the Turkish Diplomats. You are listening to a very special episode of the Turkish Diplomats Present Charming Noise because, for a few reasons, actually. One is that we are going to be talking about one of our favorite movies, and we got so carried away, we went two whole episodes, and I guarantee you we could have gone three or four easily. It's just one of those kind of movies. And the movie is Vampire Cavemen of the Lost Planet. I hesitate because it's got a bunch of names, and we'll talk about that. It's favorite movie, double episode, and we have our first special guest, our friend Ronnie Kroepfl, who we've known for a long time. She's been involved with this crazy bad movie night thing for quite a few years. And we're very fond of her, and Tom's especially fond of her because he's married to her. So I think you'll really enjoy the episode. She's great in the show. So sit back and enjoy the Turkish Diplomats present Charming Noise, a very special episode.
Okay. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Turkish Diplomats Present Charming Noise. I am one of your hosts, Thomas Kroepfl, and with me is Calvin Roach.
Hello.
And Paul Hogue.
Y'all do Mama a favor, run down, make her another grape and vodka. Last time that I wasn't coming up with anything good to say, so I came up with something.
And we have a special treat tonight. We have a guest or a guest on our show, the first one, my wife.
Hi.
And she has been subject to bad movie nights since we've been married. And she knows all about how horrible these films are that we are doing a public service announcement about. So that
did that before we got married. I married you anyway.
Yeah.
Tom, when you first started to say guest host, there's like a half-second pause. I thought you were going to say guest hostage.
Actually, I'm here my own free will because. And what?
You kind of are our guest hostage when you think about
it. It's Stockholm syndrome.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say.
I've been indoctrinated.
Well, I'm really glad you're here because I'm so tired of talking to these guys. So it's just a treat to have you on.
Plus, I've seen the movie. I saw the movie, about 15 years ago?
Probably.
We were newlyweds then, and we were all younger, and we used to gather at each other's homes for a night of frivolity and food and bad movies.
Yep.
And this movie here, I have wanted to suggest this since the podcast started because for me, this movie is on my top 5. I absolutely adore this film. I love it to no end. And Paul was brave enough to suggest it. So that's what we went with. And the movie, I'm at a loss as to really what to call it because it's got like 7 different titles.
I was introduced to the film as Vampire Cavemen of the Lost Planet.
Right.
I found it as Horrors of the Blood Monsters.
And that's what for once, one of our films did not show up on Tubi. This was actually on Plex.
Yeah.
And it's a different version than what I've got on DVD.
How does it differ?
Some scenes have been added. The fight scenes are much longer,
Okay.
and some of our favorite scenes,
From Control Room Central.
we'll get into in a moment, but they are deleted.
Huh.
I've noticed, well, some of these special effects scenes I noticed are not on this Plex version. And I was afraid maybe I was forgetting them, but I'll bet you they've been cut out.
Okay. Once again, my dog. I'll be back. Stupid dog.
Okay.
Wanna go outside? Come on, go.
So while he's taking care of the dog, Paul, do you have a list of some of the other names? Because I
Yes,
know
I
you've
do.
been through them before.
Yes, I do. So we originally, this kind of our little group, this has been in our top 3 or 4 for all of us for 30 years at least.
Yes, he didn't want to go. Anyway, sorry, Paul.
No problem. It was the first time I saw it was on USA Network, and there it was Vampire or Plant. Oh, I'll get it right in a second. Vampire Cavemen of the Lost Planet.
Was that when USA was still doing the USA up all night stuff?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh my gosh, I missed that.
But they would show. I mean,
Yeah.
the thing is, USA would just show whatever, even after Night Flight went off the air and all those. But yeah, it's been the Horror of the Blood Monsters is how it's listed on Plex, and a lot of other things now. But it's also been known. This is just in the United States. Blood Creatures from the Prehistoric Planet, Creatures of the Prehistoric Planet, Creatures of the Red Planet, Flesh Creatures of the Red Planet, Horror Creatures of the Prehistoric Planet, Space Mission of the Prehistoric Planet, Space Mission to the Lost Planet, The Flesh Creatures, apparently don't belong anywhere, and then Vampire Men of the Lost Planet, and then we knew it as Vampire Cavemen of the Lost Planet.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter what you call it. It is one of the finest motion pictures ever created by mankind. As far
I mean, to paraphrase a line from a movie we used to watch over and over and over, this was great. I never want to see it again.
It's yeah, I love this movie so much. I always thought now the other we recently lost the great motion picture director and producer Roger Corman. For years, I thought this was a Roger Corman film. It is not. It is an Al Adamson film.
Okay, yeah.
Quite a few bad movies. And if I can go ahead and share the background on how this movie was made.
Oh, yes, please.
So they had been working on a movie, another Al Adamson movie, and he basically he had leftover film stock because they had shot another movie like the week before, and I've seen what movie that was, although I'm going blank on it right now. But they had leftover film stock to shoot, he said, well, let's just, and he reused the same actors and crew to pretty much shoot this one, and had a lot of leftover set stuff, and they brought in a few things from a warehouse, but he didn't have enough to shoot an entire movie. But fortunately, he had recently purchased another movie, which they do use the title, and I'm going blank right now. What they called he had bought a Filipino caveman movie called Tagani, which they refer to the people in this as the Tagani.
Yeah.
And but there was a problem. It was shot in black and white. So they came up with this term Spectrum X, which they flash at the beginning of the movie. So anytime they needed to, they decided, well, we'll kind of gussy it up because the drive-ins don't want to see black and white movies. So we'll just, every once in a while, we'll just, do a filter on this thing and it'll be red. It'll be like black and white, but with a red tint. And then black and white with an orange tint, and black and white, but with a blue tint. And he did this over and over. And after a while, they just quit saying anything. Hey, it's suddenly blue. Nobody says a word, you know. At first, when they land, they say, "Oh, it's going to be red when we get down there," but it just changes color at random.
Yeah, they call it. They called it what? Chromatic radiation.
Yeah. They came up with there was more BS science script in this movie than pretty much any other movie we've ever seen.
Oh my gosh!
Yes, made shit up left and right,
And
especially
the sets. Oh my gosh, those chairs that they were sitting in weren't cushioned. They were.
You could see the plywood, for God's
I'm lifting off the earth at 5 G's in a plywood chair.
Yeah.
That's why they were passed out.
So you would sometimes see, like, and I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but when they land on the planet, now you start seeing the tinted Filipino caveman vampire movie.
Right.
And they're Asians, right? They're Pacific Islanders. And then when they capture this one woman, and what's amazing is they see this woman being chased by some other cavemen. They don't say anything to one another. They don't try to figure out what's going on. They just mow all these people down. and capture her, and she's no longer Filipino when they get her.
Right.
And which you
she's a surfer girl from Brooklyn.
Yeah.
But they put a thing in their head. Remember that the translator.
Yeah, they cut her open in a bloodless surgery and put the translator in her neck,
behind
her ear.
No sterilization, no gloves, nothing.
John Carradine directed it by radio.
They
didn't want to do it because they thought it was dangerous. Oh, there's nothing dangerous about this. Now put the incision next to her, you know, and
John Carradine. Go ahead, Tom.
I was going to say something that we normally do at this point, or a little bit earlier, is we outline the plot. We cannot honestly do that with this film.
No.
No.
I can kind of tell you the basic series of events.
No, let's start with the very first scenes of the vampires on Earth. I've never seen such rabbit mouths.
Okay, so trivia question, guys. Who is the narrator of that opening sequence?
I couldn't tell. Who was it?
Brother Theodore.
I did not know the name, but I know one piece of his work. He played the voice of Gollum in Bakshi's Lord of the Rings.
Oh, I didn't know that.
The Hobbit.
Wow.
He was a regular on David Letterman, Late Night with David Letterman, because he had done a couple of albums in the 60s and had done some live. He was kind of an avant-garde comic at the time, you know.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And Letterman used to bring him on the show all the time, and he would have Letterman crying from laughing because he was playing like this really depressed German philosopher character. And you know,
I vaguely remember that.
Yeah.
He had this line that I have quoted many times since then, was, "I was sweating like a chunk of rancid pork." Which is anytime I even break a sweat now, that's what I say.
So just to give our listeners an idea of what's going on, because this is 3 different films pitched together. Something Paul didn't mention was there's a bunch of stock footage, and if you've ever watched any of the Beneath the Planet of Anything black and white films, or any of the Tarzan Goes to Pellucidar or anything like that, the giant lizard fights are.
Yes, I noticed that right off the bat because it was pretty much the same one from Journey to the Center of the Earth from like 1970 or 60 something. Yeah.
So the story starts out with this girl and her son, I'm assuming, walking down the street, and this guy huddling in a corner, and then this other guy standing off in the shadows looking at them both. And then one of them turns out to be a vampire. The other one turns out to be a vampire. And then there's this voiceover explaining how the vampires are going to take over the world because they're hungry, basically. And they come from a planet that changes colors in the sky. So they set up the mission.
Yeah.
And for no reason whatsoever, our heroes, it cuts to them and they land there literally campfire stove modified spaceship, because that's what it is. It's a campfire stove that they put a cone on and they drop it by down onto some rocks. And they're on this planet that they're about to explore because they had to emergency land, and they got thrown off course when they launched because there was a lightning strike in outer space.
Yeah.
A giant cosmic disturbance.
And then it just gets weird from there.
Did you notice the background, Tom, where they were?
Mission Control?
No, the people who landed on the planet, that the area that's Vasquez Rocks. The
Star Trek rocks.
And we saw them in another movie we just did, Biohazard from 1985. There were scenes in the opening of that from Vasquez Rocks, which is just outside of LA, and has been the backdrop for hundreds of westerns and sci-fi movies.
Oh, I believe it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Vasquez Rock is basically what the universe looks like.
Yeah.
Except changing color a lot.
Yeah.
And one thing I noticed was it really caught early was that John Carradine was drunk as hell.
Yeah.
He was completely bombed, sweating like crazy.
No, he'd had a mild coronary episode before the mission took off.
That's right. He did, yeah. Which they told him that, and he was like, I don't care.
And he was a real negative Nelly in this character.
Yeah.
When has John Carradine ever been? When has John Carradine ever been an upbeat character?
That's true. That's true. But he was mad about everything. He says, I can't believe they're talking about food when we're about to go to it. It's like, well, they might want to eat.
Yeah.
And then there was the oxygen. They were afraid they were leaking oxygen. And there's the dude smoking right there in the control room on the spaceship.
Yeah, and he was asleep. Smoke, with the cigarette curl.
Yes.
I understand. In the future, they will understand that smoking is actually good for you. And they're going to encourage astronauts to smoke. So he was doing the right thing.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Plus, his character. So this was that character. I'm going blank on his name right now. He was the horn dog of the mission.
Yeah.
Well, Willie.
A fitting name.
And it really is, every single one of these movies we've seen, there's at least one hardcore horn dog on the ship.
Right.
And Willie's the designated horn dog and is going to, he's going to get space sugar from wherever they land.
And he tries to hit on Linda, the only girl on the mission, whose jumpsuit is unbuttoned halfway through her navel.
Really? I hadn't noticed.
She's the one who performed surgery, so she's the only one with a degree. With her tight pants and tight go-go boots.
We should back up when they're going to take off. They're talking to Mission Control, and apparently Mission Control doesn't have any mic stands. You have to hold the microphone.
Yes.
at NASA, which I guess mic stands just become passe, and maybe it's a safety hazard in the future. So they're just holding the microphone and passing it back and forth.
Yeah.
And in front of a curtain
Yeah.
A curtain now at JPL Laboratories. And
Something I had not noticed is the guy who kept coming up and standing behind the captain at mission control was one of the vampires that attacked one of the victims at the very beginning of the film.
Oh, wow.
oh,
And Linda was also attacked at the very beginning of the. They just recycled the actors. They only had like 12 people in the whole show.
Oh, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And this being I guess they were they were like a paramilitary kind of mission because they had uniforms, but they all wore blue ascots as part of their uniform.
Yeah, ascots threw me off.
Yep.
ascots are going to be so big in the future. And
Thanks to Scooby-Doo and Fred, yes.
right. Except they're going to be tucked in.
Yeah, of course.
Tuck it in. So they fly through space, and which it's amazing. I don't know what kind of rocket fuel they were using, but it makes smoke go up in space. And then they land, and in the version I originally saw on USA Today, when they landed, they accidentally let go of the fishing line on the ship.
Oh my God.
It literally would bounce around the ship, and they cut that out on this one, on the version.
USA Network. You said USA Today.
Oh,
yeah.
I'm sorry. USA Network. I used to watch movies on the newspaper. You kids don't remember, man. These newspapers. So anyway, yeah, it would. But you could see in this one that they almost toppled the ship when it landed. They had to like straighten it out before it fell over.
Oh my God.
And the ladder that they came down, you would think that in the future they would have better ladders than a rickety aluminum painter's ladder out of the space.
It was just so flat. It was moving.
Yeah.
They didn't even get the good aluminum ladder. They got a really, really rickety one.
And when the one guy carried the other guy on his shoulder up that ladder, I was like, that ladder is not gonna make it.
He gets that ladder, he immediately drops everything else he's got because he's like, shit, I gotta carry a dude up a ladder. And so he drops his gun, he drops his pack,
Mm-hmm.
He's like, I'll be lucky if I survive the first 2 or 3 steps on this thing.
Oh, and talking about the obligatory horn dog in these, there was also the obligatory funny guy, and I forget what his name. That was Willie.
That was also Willie.
You're right. I'm sorry.
I think they were trying to set it because if he's going to be the horn dog, he's got to have. So he had pretty much all of the personality on the ship.
Except for Carradine, his angry self.
Yeah.
As the kids say today, he had that riz. I'm so hip.
Okay. One thing I want to point out on the newer version is that they added a bedroom scene where people wore the little thingies on their heads. What those things called? Probes.
Electrodes.
Electrodes.
I was going to say I didn't remember seeing that in the. Okay. Good.
It was in the version that I've got on DVD, but it was only probably 20 seconds, not an hour and a half.
This one, the first one was like about 30 seconds, and the second one, like he said, we're going to do the full session next time. I know you need extra stimulus.
I got that quote on here in my.
I'm thinking, okay. Thomas says, why do they have all these phallic lights going off? And all the lights are like 6 inches, which is, I guess,
the lights and the sirens going off with the electrodes on their heads. I'm like, okay, everybody has a kink, not mine.
Why are you looking through? Why are we peeking the empty wine bottle holders?
Yeah.
Yes. And they actually did say that that apparently they do sex in a different way in the future. Now, it starts like regular sex. And that you do have naked people in a bed. But
he said, don't you miss doing it the old-fashioned way? And she says, yes, I do. But they don't do it.
Yeah. I caught that. Yeah.
Yeah, the full quote is I know you need more to get full satisfaction, which is
that
my second favorite quote in the movie. My favorite quote was not long before that when they got Leon, the woman that they captured from the planet, and what did Willie called her something else? Willie called her like what's that?
Marlene.
Mylene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
was like, where the hell did Laline come from? You know?
Yeah, because like the cavemen of her tribe were calling her Leela or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But she tells Willie her name is Mylene after the surgery.
Okay. Okay.
You know, so there were a couple of times they're like, are the cavemen looking for the same person here? I don't understand.
Well, see, he says so. John Carradine had my favorite quote in the movie where he says, "So I guess I think they get her on the ship. We're gonna have to do a second session, guys. By the way,
Oh, so yeah.
This, he says, now give her a shot, and then he makes the creepiest face and goes, to relieve migraine.
Yes.
And I was like, yeah, that's really cool.
And then he should have held up a syringe like Billy D. Williams with Colt 45. Works every time.
60% of the time, it works every time. Yeah, and so when they land on the planet, they go walking around, they start seeing monsters, and it's clear that they didn't know exactly what they were going to see because they don't know about. I don't think they had seen this movie Tagani, so they don't say, "Hey, look, there's some lizards fighting in this one scene," just like it's from 1,000,000 years BC. And another, and then there's there's an elephant in a fursuit.
Well, yes, they put like a velvet suit on an elephant.
It looked more like leaves and vines to us, but
and that elephant did not look happy in that suit.
No. Snuffleupagus was angry.
Okay, and this is something we forgot to mention was before our astronauts leave the ship, the vampire cavemen are fighting a tribe of people with snakes that come out of their bodies, and they mentioned that later, but
yeah,
they never talk about him again.
Shoulders, yeah,
they never talk about him again. I wanted to see more of that, but
did you notice that to kill the caveman, all you had to do was strangle the snake?
Yeah.
Pinched the snake and really, really hard, and the guy died.
Yeah. Well, in at least one of the fight scenes, which by the way, I really want to see Tagani because it had great fight scenes.
Oh yeah,
they were throwing real buckets of fire at one another.
Hey, they were throwing anvil-sized rocks at each other. I mean, the one guy picks up, the turncoat good guy caveman who's working with the vampire caveman, tries to kill Ramir, apparently the chief's son or something, and they're fighting, and he picks up a rock about the size of a Volkswagen, and it's a real rock, so they get the guy on the ground. They had to time that just right. He could have killed the man with that rock.
Yeah, that's true.
But those guys were pretty strong, though. Did you notice that they were all like bodybuilders? I think they trained out of gym.
Oh yeah, yeah. They didn't get like the flabby guys left over from the last, Al Adamson. They actually got people could get away with fake leopard skin suits and look. Yeah, so they land on the surface. They start moving around. Colors are changing. They come up with a bunch of scientific jabber BS, complete BS about how the atmosphere is changing, but they don't. When it changes to a different color, no one says anything like, "Oh, right. Everything's blue."
Yeah. Which, this is kind of jumping ahead, but toward the end, when they're bustling to get off the planet. And, and they had to carry Willie back onto the ship because he passed out. That's, and John Carradine just says, well, these people, there was a virus in the atmosphere, and that's what's affecting everybody because your red blood cells are disappearing.
They're being eaten by the white blood cells.
Yeah, that's it. Yes, and then without ever having gone anywhere with the crew, he tells them how this planet was once a flourishing civilization, but thermonuclear fusion war wiped it out, and now they're in this savage state.
And they look at him like, I don't remember reading that in the script.
I know.
And then they say, are we at risk from this virus? Oh, no, it can't survive on Earth. But we know better, don't we?
By them getting on board the ship fast enough, they're going to be okay.
Yeah, apparently, yeah.
But death is kind of apparently in the future, death is not that big a deal because one of the guys gets killed in the fight near the end, Bob. And Bob was the guy that got really picked on. He was the one they sent to do the shit missions. Hey,
yes.
Go back and get his cans. Yeah, sure.
And he leaves his gun.
Yeah, he leaves the gun. You're right. Oh my gosh.
And he has to sneak back to get around the lizards and the buffalo and all this.
Which I would like to point out one thing that was just so obviously stupid. It tickles me. Is they're sneaking around in the desert to avoid all of these giant monsters that are fighting in the jungle.
Yeah.
But they could see them very clearly.
What was that?
They could see them very clearly. Remember the giant with the snake with his tongue looking out, and they hid in the crevice of the rock and got their guns poised to fight a creature that was coming over a hill under the giant trees, and it was like, yeah, right.
Oh, there was that scene where they're walking back to the ship and they find that steel box sticking out of the ground.
Yeah.
Maybe that's and Carradine says, well, and they tell him about it they tell Carradine about it on the ship.
There's no way to get in it, by the way.
Yeah. But what it is, it was a war surplus ammo can.
Ammo box.
Yeah. I've got one I've had since the 7th grade.
If he hadn't lifted the handle on it, you might not have known.
But
he lifted the handle when they got it on the table in the thing.
So maybe that's where Carradine got that knowledge about the future or something like that.
It's Carradine.
He reached a lot of conclusions with little evidence.
The distillation system he set up, and it was already working before they got back there with the fire water.
Which made me think
all they needed was oil, so he could make a distillery for the oil, and so of course they had jerry cans on a spaceship.
Why would they have 2 jerry cans on a spaceship?
Yeah,
all the spaces on a free. They don't have food because nobody ate.
No, I mean food. No,
they barely have seat belts.
What'd you say, Paul?
They barely have seat belts.
Oh yeah,
they really had those. And the distillery that they built, the still that he built. My question was, how much fuel do they need to get off the planet? And you've got a still that is half the size of a desktop.
No.
They still had to distill it. So how much did they need?
Not much. It was tiny. It's an oven stove.
I'm convinced there was a pull start on the outside of the ship that we just it's Briggs and Stratton, take over. Because the history is Boeing fails in a couple of years, and that the timeline's already started for that.
Right.
Stratton takes over. and apply
I just-
lawnmower technology to everything.
Okay, did you guys notice that in some of the mission control scenes, Tom pointed out last night, they're like Barbie dolls. The commander and the communications officer are Barbie dolls.
We've got less than a minute, so are we going to do a part 2 to this?
Yeah, we're gonna have to do a part 2 for sure.
Yeah, we are.
Let's answer the Barbie question in part 2. And with that, I'm going to guess that I'm going to actually, for once, make a show come out on time.
Bye.
Our guest again is my wife, Ronnie. Want to thank everybody for tuning in, and you can catch our podcast on YouTube, AudioTube, wherever you can.
And now, part 2 of our very special episode on vampire cavemen of the Lost Planet.
Welcome back, everybody. This is part 2 of the Turkish Diplomats presents Charming Noise. Our film today, which we are talking about, is Vampire Cavemen of the Lost Planet, also known as Horror of the Blood Monsters, also known as Hellhounds of the Red Planet or something like that. It's got like 20 different names. Anyway, I'm going to through our so that we can get right back into this. My name is Thomas Kroepfl. Our other host for this show is Paul Hogue and Calvin Roach. And we have a special guest tonight, our very first guest from the the last show, my wife, Ronnie Kroepfl.
Hi.
Hello, Ronnie. All right.
So-
Who wants to start us off on this part 2? Tom?
Well, I'll say this. Where we left off, there was the question of, did you see the Barbie dolls that they had sitting
Right.
at the beginning at Mission Control?
Not beginning, sort of about 30, 40 minutes in, they took a long shot, and the lady with the dark hair and the guy, the sexy captain, was they were a shot from the back, and their arms were, and at first I didn't really notice it, and someone said, "Those are dolls."
Yeah, you're right.
It's
I-
before Barbie.
Noticed.
Yeah, they didn't move every time they showed them for a very, very long time.
from that long shot from the back that
Mhm.
showed like the control board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was
Wow.
before Barbie and Ken. The first Ken,
They kept
Which
using
one?
the same little piece of footage where two people walked by
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
and from that long shot. So I guess it was, and I kept paying attention to them. I'm like, well, that's the same shot.
Yeah.
it was. They used it 3 times.
and here's something. This goes to one of the very heart of why I love this film. There's a point in it where Carradine and the captain and the woman, I don't know, I guess the communications officer, the Uhura of the film,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
are talking together, and they cut to that long shot, and
She's a mop.
well, no, she has no head. There's no head on her whatsoever.
But remember the film that we used to watch. At one point, she was a mannequin, and the head got walked to the side. At one point, they stuck a head in the mannequin, and then finally, it was just a headless mannequin.
It was very sad.
They didn't put a wig on the mannequin, on the mop head, just the mop head.
And that is on the version of the DVD that I got.
Oh,
It was not on this Plex version of it. They cleaned it up way too much. Damn you people.
There, how many versions are there? There's got to be like, because there's whatever was the cut for USA Network. There was the cut they had for Plex, which
Yeah.
I get the impression was on other television stations also.
Yeah, the Plex one was a sexy one.
yeah.
Yeah, because because they're because apparently in the future, I mean, I got to tell you that I was like, I don't remember this at all from the first time I saw
Yeah,
it.
no.
Yeah.
Was the 2 sex scenes with Mission Control,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't know Mission Control was like band camp, for God's sake. And that they so because they have a love scene and then they come back because there wasn't enough, and so they do the second love scene, and it lasts a
It
good
went on.
7-8 minutes. You know?
Way too long for no.
Yeah, and that's 7 or 8 minutes of those blinking neon light tubes and that siren,
Yeah,
which is supposed to augment your sex somehow.
I had 3 seizures during that scene.
I kept
At least that's what I call them.
Over.
What'd you say, Ronnie?
I was kept thinking, when is this going to be over?
I know, I did too.
Just blinking lights and boom, boom, boom.
I started to fast forward through it, but I thought, no, I'll miss some important dialogue. I was wrong.
Well, then he does bring back
important dialogue in this film do not go together.
now he brings back that piece of equipment that is supposed to, and they do some kind of BS explanation about how it changes the atmosphere.
And he was going to demonstrate with that gun thing that could do it.
And he pointed at the woman.
Yeah, and he was like 4 colors, and she never said a word.
She just kind of looked around. Like,
yeah, just kind of looking around like, "Ooh, wow, look at that."
After the first couple of colors, I thought, well, he'll set it down now. No.
And then finally she said, blue.
Yeah, and apparently using a chromatic radiation gun, it has a kick to it because he pulled the trigger and fly back with it.
It's well, he was putting a pretty heavy load in there, and
everybody knows that sepia tone will do that to you.
Look, in the future, color's going to change. How Pantone basically takes over from Viagra. Everyone.
But why was he shooting her with the radiation gun?
He was trying to show her what the astronauts were experiencing.
Did he just shot the wall though?
Yeah, yeah, that's what he could have done that, but no, he wanted to shoot whatever her name was. Yeah.
Well, it's part of that future sugar.
Sugar. Okay, I'm gonna keep that in mind.
That's the name of the episode right there. Future
Love sugar of the lost planet.
Yeah, so they have this incredibly long love sequence for Mission Control, which I'm wondering how many people from Mission Control have watched that and like, that just doesn't happen around here. Now these guys are doing pretty well,
It changes my slide ruler.
They cut that. They cut all the love scenes out of like the NASA training videos, so they don't get to see that.
All right, I have an interesting bit of trivia that I found on IMDb about this. So the guy who's the director of photography, I think, for that opening sequence, that Brother Theodore narrates. He was just getting started in the movies, and he had done a bunch of B movies up to that point, about a dozen B movies, where he served as his name was trying to find his name again. Why is this not? Vilmos Zsigmond, and he went by the name early on in his career, he went by the name William Zsigmond, and he's listed either as cinematographer or director of photography, which same basic thing. And some of the classics he did before then included, let's see, The Sadist, The Nasty Rabbit, Deadwood 76, Blood of Ghastly Horror. The name of the game is Kill! Hot Rod Action, Satan's Sadists, Five Bloody Graves. And then he does Horror of the Blood Monsters in 1970, but later that year is director of photography for McCabe and Mrs. Miller, and goes on to have this incredible career. Some of the other movies he served, he was cinematographer on, The Long Goodbye, Sugarland Express.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
Hang on, my head just blew off. I'll be right back.
The Deer Hunter the very next year.
Oh God.
He
Yeah.
did The Rose a couple of years after that. Heaven's Gate, Jinxed, Real Genius, The River, Witches of Eastwick, The Two Jakes, Jersey Girl, and
Do what, Tom?
It's a he didn't do no Macon County line.
Sugarland Express.
My gosh, I mean, how do you go from
well, the
Horror
dude
of the
paid his
Planet.
dues. That's for sure.
yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Well, he had to eat. He had to pay his bills.
That's right.
He did. I mean, you go from what was it, Bunny Death or Death Bunny to Close Encounters of the Third Kind. My gosh.
Well, they went from this to McCabe and Mrs. Miller in the same year.
Wow. That's
So, and literally everything up to then just bad B movies. And I think mostly with Al Adamson. So
Well, now I want to see Blood Bunny.
yes, I do too.
there's several on this list I would really like to check out.
That's why Blood Bunny is like. That's why I want to do a season where we do drive-in and grindhouse movies. I really want to do that.
Oh.
That's a perfect movie.
Right. What kind of movies?
Grindhouse.
Just grind them out.
Well, pretty much. Grindhouse movies. You think of oh God, Horror at the Wax Museum.
Yeah.
It's still not sleepaway camp though.
Well, the term kind of started in the 30s or 40s, where they would have these 24-hour theaters.
Yeah.
And they're just grinding out movies one after another, and that's kind of where it came from. And in the earliest days, it was quote unquote normal movies, cowboys and Indians and gangster movies. And eventually, it became the vehicle for all these wonderful movies that we warn people about.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I think we should warn them about sleepaway camp.
Ronnie has really been after the last show campaigning to be a guest again for Sleepaway Camp. But
A good project for one of our seasons would be movies set at camp.
yeah.
That's
do that easily.
Yeah.
And Ronnie is a connoisseur because she owns what, 5 of the Sleepaway Camp.
And I had a kid that I sent to sleepaway camp. She was a counselor, but she didn't, and she wound up committing murder to a water moccasin. Or a copperhead. That was a copperhead.
All right. Yeah, we will
Shouldn't have-
definitely
she
do
shouldn't have.
that. My gosh. She'll be our expert on sleepaway camp.
She killed it with a water bottle.
Oh my gosh.
Might be.
Okay, so back to our film.
Yes.
Okay.
There was a movie.
Did y'all notice that a lot of the bad guys were little people?
Yeah. Some of the cavemen were little people. Yeah, I noticed that too.
And they had sprouted teeth, a lot of teeth.
Uh-huh.
They were like the plastic things you get at the Dollar Tree.
Yeah, that's exactly what they were.
They were a cross between fangs and tusks.
Yeah. I mean, they were the kind
And they were
you could get.
sitting there talking.
They were
It's like
fun.
an
I think
the thing was showing.
Yeah. I mean, they were the kind of things you could buy at Dollar General today. That kind of for Halloween.
Yeah. And this brings us to one of my favorite critters of the whole film, the bat people in the caves.
Yeah, I started to mention them too. Go ahead, Tom.
Bat people and the crabmen.
Yeah, they called them claw creatures on the poster I saw.
Did anybody want to just set those bat people on fire when they jumped down? Why didn't they set them on fire?
I know.
Torches?
Yeah, they had torches and parts of the cave were on fire.
Yeah,
But somehow or other, I love the way that the bat people would be perched up on a cliff in the cave, and when they would get ready to attack, they would stand up and spread their wings out, and it looked really cool, and they had great makeup, and they would dive, and their wings turned into a blanket that they were holding, and it was flapping behind them.
Yeah, those that umbrella wing thing didn't really work well in those.
Yeah.
I gotta feel they popped up, like
Oh,
bats.
the poster I'm looking at calls them bat demons.
Bat demons?
Yeah, on the poster that I'm looking at.
Well, I think Batman.
Not worth the crap either.
Bat demons, Matt Damon. What do you think?
Matt Damon.
and the crawdad people, that just, why didn't everybody jump on them? I mean,
Why
that's
didn't
a
they
meal.
stay in the water when the first guy died? I mean,
Because the people were fighting back, they didn't want to die.
And when the
My
first
thing
guy-
was,
and when the first guy died, his clothes began floating away, and Ramir, the leader of the warrior band, was going
Yeah.
after the guy's clothes. I'm like,
why?
why?
I was like, he's going. Just keep going.
And they were swimming to the shore, and they were like 5 feet from shore. You could see the shore in the shot,
Yeah.
and they're swimming, and they didn't bother to stand up and just walk out of the water. Instead, they turn around and they stare at Rainier fighting the crawdaddy people, and he's trying to pop the crab leg open on the guy.
Yeah.
That's where the really good meat is,
And here's something else I noticed during the claw creature scene was when they would either come up out of the water or submerge, they were completely invisible. That water must have been so stinking muddy.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, you can't see those guys the instant that they totally submerge.
Crabs aren't real clean.
well, true. And eventually, everything. Okay, this is a nerd thing. Eventually, everything evolves into a crab. There's spots.
It's the results of that future sugar.
It's the
Yeah, because
radiation.
anyway, I'll talk about nerd stuff later. Go ahead.
Crabs, and then you bird crabs. See.
Oh, makes sense.
So you're saying it's sexy crab burps that are changing people.
Yes, that's the problem. If only they had melted butter and horseradish, they probably could have fought them off a little easier. I think we should go around the horn here and get our opinions on whether we recommend this or not. And let's start with our guest. And anything else you might want to add also.
I really think the original version was better. It was shorter. It had a lot more bloopers, I think.
Yeah.
Obvious bloopers, but I liked it better. I was looking forward to seeing that one.
Yeah. But
You-
you would still
the
recommend this
version.
movie.
And this one was cleaned up. It was a bit more polished. It had the obligatory sex scenes that were more
Mhm.
relatable, I guess. I don't know.
More graphic.
Make it more
Get rid of that PG-13 rating.
It was GP, rated GP.
GP. Yeah, GP. And now what is it? Is it GP? Is it still GP?
Yeah, on the version I watched, it said GP.
General public?
Yeah.
The general population they show it in prison.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
I don't think that's the movie you should
Such.
show in prison, honestly.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, they invented new sex. Good.
So else to get my mind.
I'm gonna let my lawyer know. We'll have to get future sodomy off the.
But I liked it. I liked it more than some of the movies we've watched before. I'll put it that way.
Oh, this kills a bunch of movies we've seen just in the last couple of seasons.
Oh, right.
Yeah. Some of the movies we've watched have been worth 10 minutes of my time, and they lasted an hour and a half.
I was just editing the audio for Astro Loco, and I don't remember a scene from it. I mean,
Wow.
remember nothing from that movie.
Oh my gosh.
I can literally
Yes.
recount scenes from this movie that I saw 35 years ago.
You know,
What's your take on the
one
movie,
thing
Paul?
What, this movie? Yeah.
Yeah. What's your take on the movie, Paul? Would you recommend it or what?
Oh, this is everything we watch bad movies for. I
Yes.
mean, it's amazing. It's you can see every mistake as they were about to make it.
Yes.
You know, they clearly love making movies because there's no other reason to stick around. I mean, I don't think they probably got much more pay for this movie. They were already paid for one movie.
Right.
So my guess is they didn't even make scale for this.
Yeah. I mean,
John Carradine is amazing to watch, even when he's shitty, you know.
Yes. Yes.
And it's clear after a little bit they were just having him because you know just riff a little bit, you know. Because you could see the look in their eyes, like I don't remember reading a damn thing about this.
There was another movie we watched where he just kind of riffed on science sounding stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Linda actually said he's so intelligent. He's so far above us. He barely interacts with us. He's so he has so much to share and so much to teach us. I'm thinking, how is he going to teach you if he doesn't talk to you?
And he spends half the time just yelling at.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's very even more than most movies he's in. He's you know very crotchety in this movie.
Yeah.
But it's a joy, you know. It's got I forget the character that kind of reminded me of like Sue from the Fantastic Four that was in this. Linda, yeah. One of the worst actresses we've seen.
Oh, she was terrible.
She could not deliver a line.
When the men left her alone and unarmed to go off to investigate something at the top of the rocks, you know, like, Linda, you stay here with no gun, not even a rock to throw at something. I kept thinking, maybe they'll kill her off.
It's like,
you know, Bob deserved to die. Did y'all think that?
Bob deserved to die.
He puts his rifle down. He plays with his revolver, and then he starts fiddling with the walkie-talkie, and messing with his fingernails. Even I was thinking he deserves to die.
I think he must have had OCD because he can't hold more than one thing at a time. If he's going to hold the radio, he's putting down on the ground whatever was in his hands.
That's true.
He had this rifle around it, like over his shoulder or something.
Yeah.
But that would be simple and make sense. Then when Willie needed the gun, he would have to roll Bob, who was like 9 foot tall, over to get the gun out from underneath him. Yeah.
And that's why they said
and Willie died feet away. He was probably about 30 yards away when he died.
He wasn't actually dead. He was kind of dead. He was kind of dead.
He was mostly dead, but he was dead.
I'll get to
Where's Bob and Willie? Dead.
But anyway, yeah, this movie has terrible special effects, no real plot. They had to steal stuff from literally three other movies to make this thing, mostly from the Filipino Caveman movie, which looks like it's 50 times better than this.
We'll need to find it.
Oh, yeah. But that's the thing. It has everything we look for in a bad movie, and they amplify.
My gosh, they do.
They make Mission Control the worst Mission Control we've ever seen. The rocket ship is the worst rocket ship we've ever seen on the show, on any of these movies. You know, the dialogue is laughable from one end to the other.
Yes.
And and one good sign of a bad movie is people die and no one says anything.
Right.
And
Right.
Bob dies and no one goes, yeah, well then,
Poor Bob. Let's go get
hats off to
lunch.
Bob. Something they could have said something. They don't even acknowledge it.
Yeah.
Willie was over. He just emptied his gun into the guy. He emptied all 6 bullets into the
caveman.
yeah. He shot him twice, and then he walked up on him and shot him some more.
Yes.
Which tells you right there, despite his way of speaking in that fake English kind of accent, that he's from New York.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's a made man.
I think this is a hidden discourse on colonialism. It's they land on the planet, they see the natives, let's kill them and take their women. That's what this movie was about.
They should show this in history classes as an example.
Okay.
And ironically, they were Filipinos. So it fits in with the.
Go ahead, Ronnie.
One thing from me, when they take off from the red planet or the photochromatic planet, there's smoke, right?
Yeah.
They get back into the Earth's atmosphere. They're coming in. It was a piece of fabric.
Yeah, coming out of the tailpipe, it was a piece of fabric fluttering,
going up and down because fabric swirled this way. Yeah, and it was
this movie is in that realm where, like, I saw that too, and in my mind, I just excused it because, well, of course they're going to have, fabric flapping just on the edge.
Well, they had fire earlier, like a little blowtorch, like a little acetylene torch or something. They ran out of solid fuel, maybe.
Well, this is when they switched over to the distilled coolant that Carradine had made. And so, Calvin, your opinion on this one?
I think anybody who loves bad movies, you should watch this movie under one title or another, and maybe under more than one title, because you might see something that wasn't edited out of another one. I think, so people should watch at least 3 versions of this movie. I actually enjoyed it, even though it was like having, my teeth pulled to sit through it. And I think I loved it because it was so bad. I laughed at a lot of the dialogue, even though it wasn't supposed to be comic, because Willie's jokes sucked and he was the clown. But it was just the rest of the dialogue. It was terrible. I mean, there's no such thing as special effects in this. The prosthetics and makeup on the cavemen are terrible. But the fight scenes are insanely good to watch. So if anybody likes a crappy movie, this is your movie. Watch it.
Yeah. Oh, that one scene where the guy picked up the guy and threw him into 3 guys and knocked him down. That was good.
Oh yeah, it's that basic one motherfucker picked up another motherfucker to hit another motherfucker. Samuel L. Jackson. I love you.
What is your take on the movie, Tom?
As I said in the beginning of the first episode on this is up there in my top 5.
Yeah.
It lived up there for over 35 years. It's going to be hard pressed to find something to take its place. And long time ago, we came up with the criteria that makes a bad movie. And you can read that if you want to go to our website. We'll give you the address later. You can check off every single box in this thing on that list. It is just, in my opinion, one of the perfect bad movies.
Yes, I agree.
They just ignore bad shots. They ignore bad lighting. They ignore insufficient dialogue. They have props that don't fit. What else?
It reminds you of the plot the plot of a old 60s porn. Okay, next shot. Let's go. Come on.
Yeah. Oh God.
Yeah, it one of the requirements of the bad movie is that you're a worse person for having watched it. And I felt my
Intelligence level drop.
Yeah, I felt a little degraded.
But it's a joy to watch. I still love this movie, and it's the perfect group watch.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Oh yes, you don't watch it alone. This is a group watch, and if you have slightly illegal substances to enjoy it with, I would suggest those too.
You could make a drinking game of it. Like whenever the planet's atmosphere turns, like say blue, every time it turns blue, take a shot.
Just any color. Any color.
Or no, if it turns blue, you take a shot of Jägermeister. If it turns red, you do tequila. If it turns green, you do something else.
No.
Oh yeah.
And someone's like water, Sprite, green or Sprite, even the pink color bottle. Did y'all notice that Sprite bottles are clear now?
Yeah, they are. Yeah. Yeah.
You can also make a drinking game out of every time John Carradine yells, but you'll be passed out drunk before they ever land on the surface.
Well, Thomas, wrap it up for us.
Okay. Could it be that we are actually going to get to all of the information that we try to pass on at the end of a film?
I hope so.
Or a show? Okay. So we have a website. The website is turkishdiplomats.com.
Mm-hmm.
We have the podcast, which lives at podbean.com under the title of The Diplomats Presents Charming Noise. If you go to the website, there are links everywhere.
Yes.
We have a Facebook page called The Turkish Diplomats Present Charming Noise.
Yeah.
Are sense anything here? You can hear us on Podbean. You can hear us on YouTube. You can hear us on what else?
Tune in, Spotify,
Apple.
Yes, yeah.
Basically, if you can hear it.
Google Podcast went away and they just started dumping everything on YouTube now. So.
Yeah. So you really have our viewers really have no excuse but to watch us. We are everywhere.
That's right.
And when you see our like and subscribe to our stuff, share them with your friends.
Yeah.
We're at about now we get up in our downloads a little bit and as we get through the season, but we still haven't even hit 100 downloads on a single episode yet.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Download
of all together, put together. So, we're hoping that but we do have people who are listening overseas. We've got some in Australia, we've got folks in Canada, we've got folks in the Middle East listening, and so
we would especially like to thank the folks who are up in Canada who supported so strongly our Bigfoot season. We may be coming back to that because since then we have found a whole new plethora of films that we've not even had.
The fans of the Bigfoot season just keep suggesting things, and I think it's great.
We have gotten some pretty good suggestions on those. Well, we still have a few more to do for this season, and then we'll actually have to start discussing what the next season will be.
Right.
So,
and although we do have something in mind, we would like to get your suggestions. Just put them in the comments of whatever episode that you happen to be watching, and we'll take them into consideration and ignore them promptly.
And or tie a message to the collar of a stray cat. It will show up at my house eventually.
Well, surprise, they ran out of time anyway. Thanks to Ronnie Kroepfl for joining us for this episode. Join us for the next episode of the Turkish Diplomats Present Charming Noise.